Hey guys, this is Uboat from Grinder School, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to open 5 PLO Zoom at PokerStars, and what we're going to focus is just playing the player. Like I'm not going to be using a HUD. Well, as you know from my previous videos, that I can't use my Poker Tracker 4 on the Zoom tables when I also because I have a MacBook. And so what we're going to do is without any HUDs and just based on the tendencies of the player pools of these stakes, specifically 5 PLO, and it also applies to 2, 5, 10 PLO, and some 25 PLO. And I'm going to just focus on one table, and we're going to just focus on making plays based on bet sizing, and also based on our position. And also, just before we start, my videos are going to be a little bit more sporadic. I do have some more real-life work that got a little bit busier than I thought. So it looks like I won't be making as much video, but I will be able to make video hopefully, once or twice a month, and hopefully we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm gonna start this table up, and let's see what kind of action that we end up getting, and hopefully, we do run into some interesting situation, maybe difficult situation. And this is a spot that I'm gonna fold because we don't have a suited ace, and that the pair of 10 doesn't really do anything. You know what? You really don't want to set mine too much, especially against that short stack or too much in PLO, unless your heads up and you're in position. That's the only time maybe I may um, call that bet. And also when you're out of position, you want to avoid raising with marginal hands. And this is a hand that I could raise, and definitely uh, a hand that I can call a limp. Just being aware that we do have a short stacker right here. When he calls, and when we get into these spots, I might run out of time. We have to fold these hands because only thing that we have nutty is a suited ace, and there's say we have I'm gonna pause it. Say we had like um, a straight draw, but it's not for the nuts, and we have no way of getting top set. So that's a hand that we should fold multi-way. Even I think we were in position on that one. Even if you are in position, I'll fold that multi-way because what you want to do when you play multi-way is have very nutty hands. You want the opportunity to have top set, and in addition, either a nut flush draw or a nut straight. Whereas on that previous hand, all I had was a potential nut flush draw, but my straight draws, and there was no chance for top set to connect with a boat or even quads. And with quads, that's just luck. And this hand is just total junk when this guy in the button raises, no matter what kind of trash hand he has. We're gonna fold. And this guy, I don't know why he's calling, but another thing to note at these stakes, and this is a hand that I'm gonna, it's okay to fold, but I'm gonna just raise 3x. And when you do raise early position, you want to raise strong, nothing less than 3x or potting in, okay? And when I watch these players at micro stakes playing their hands, and see like when we can take the pot down. When you're in small blind, I'll try like here. Like I do have a suited ace, but my side cards are not very connected, and I don't think it's worth three betting out of position in pot limit Omaha because you want to see the pot, and we should be able to outplay these players. And here we have a nut flush draw. And what we're gonna do is this: I'm gonna bet 75%, and hopefully he goes all in. And we're gonna call any re-raise, and we're gonna just get it in. If you don't get it, well, see, he had bad kings. Oh, do you have sevens? Yes. Yeah, we coolered him. But you know what? When you look back at that hand, I mean, we had a nut flush draw, and we had top. I mean, we would have over pair. And on this one, kings, I really don't like it, but it's a limp. If it's 3x, I'll kind of fold that hand, but it's a limp. I'm going to just call that in position. And although he did have a made straight, we kind of coolered him, but technically we didn't. because we put him all in on the flop there. And anytime when you have that, aces and what do you have, 15x and 6, 7. You know what? I'm going to fold this one since it was multi-way. If it was maybe 3-way, I would have probably re-raised them, but that one I would have definitely folded there. And deuce, deuce, 8, 10, we're going to fold that. 8, queen, 3, 5 is utter trash. We're going to fold that in the early position. And this one, it's a hand that I may raise 3x if the 10 was suited to the diamonds, but since we have 8, I'm going to fold this. There's just too many players yet to act. And that's why you always want to think about when you're out of position, try to avoid 3-betting because you get into so many tough spots post-flop when you're out of position and you make a 3-bet, and most of the time you're giving up a huge pot. So for now at these micro stakes, even at lower stakes that I'm playing, I don't know what the real stats are, but I think it's almost an incorrect move to 3-bet out of position, and this one we're gonna fold. And as you watch this video, if you find some of my folds like questionable, just feel free to post it up because after all, we're all here to learn, and I'm here to learn too, through making videos. And this one, if that was suited to the ace, I'll really call this one because we have a chance for top 2 pair or even the nut flush draw or a nut straight draw, but we're going to fold this one in position. And he's very deep stack. He's going to call anything there. And this is a really weird hand when we have 3 aces. We're definitely not folding these hands, but post-flop, we're going to tread very cautiously with these hands where we have 3 aces because we only have 1 out for a set, and we did have 1 flush draw, but it's a very difficult hand to hit on the flop, and we're going to fold this at middle position. And getting back to, in this one, we're going to have to raise 3x, although the thing I hate about this hand is that we have no suitedness, but we do have a chance for a top set with queens and maybe possible straight draw. And that's a tough spot. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to fold this one. If that was maybe suited to these, I would definitely call that, but I folded that. And also, we were in position. I guess I could have called, but I just hate having non-suited hand. It's just, you lose so many outs when you don't have that extra nut flush draw. And sorry, I'm going to fold this. So getting back to 3-betting when you're out of position, definitely try to avoid 3-betting out. And you know what? This one, nothing real nutty. I'm going to fold this. Just avoid 3-betting out of position. Always try to 3-bet when you're in position, when you're on the button or at the cutoff. And avoid 3-betting when you're in middle position versus under the gun, because when they're under the gun, raises, they're raising with a very strong range, especially based on your previous reads on the under the gun. So try to avoid any 3-bets early position and when you're out of position, like from the blinds. It is not like Hold'em. You're not going to fold anyone out. So when you do 3-bet, you're going to be raising for value, but when you're out of position and when you don't hit the flop, it's just so difficult to play. And yeah, this. And we are definitely going to raise from under the gun. We do have chance for flush draw, straight draw, and not the top set though, but we have 2 out of 3, which is good enough to raise from early position. And we're definitely going to bet this close to pot. When they raise from the blind, usually it should be strong hand, but at these micro stakes, anyone's raising with junk, but I always assume that they're raising with hopefully a stronger range, and when the flop is, it doesn't really hit our opponent's range who's from raising, calling from the blinds, I'm going to definitely c-bet that. And even at these micro stakes, it's kind of good to look at the flops and try to determine based on which position that they raise at. Try to determine whether the flop hits it or not. I mean, like if you have a flop that's like ace, king, jack, and someone calls your open raise, there's a good chance that hit their range. Whereas if the flop is on like ace, five, deuce, very unlikely that hit their range. So something worth noting when you're playing Pot Limit Omaha, because this is such a strongly post-flop game. And now I haven't made a video for a while, so I have quite a bit of beef to state right now, because when I see all these players playing at microstakes, whether it's from making videos or just playing on my phone. Okay, 5, 6, king. Yeah, it's kind of like a semi-wet board. I am going to check back. Sure, so I don't want to bloat the pot. And what? 2/3. Yeah. The beef I have is especially at the micro stakes, and probably less so in lower stakes, because the lower stakes the players are getting pretty good. The beef I have is when people have aces, they just want to go all in pre-flop, and they're saying that, well, I was like, what, 65-35, I had the equity to go all in, I should be winning that pot majority of the time. Yeah, I mean, like, I mean, pre-flop, yeah, but remember, you have 4 cards now. It's not like no limit where once you have good equity, it's going to carry you through most of the streets. Whereas in Pot Limit Omaha, I mean, you can be a 65 favorite in one street, and you can be a 20% dog on the next street. So whenever I see people going all in pre-flop in Pot Limit Omaha, it's just, you're just asking for more variance. And even if you think that you got cooler, I don't think you did, because it's a post-flop game. Play post-flop. If you want to play pre-flop, go play no limit. And that's one thing I would really avoid doing, because as you move up stakes, if you're not strong post-flop, you're not going to be a winner at these games. So don't think that Pot Limit Omaha is everything about pre-flop. The only thing important about pre-flop in Pot Limit Omaha is your starting range, and making sure that you have a very strong range at early position and from the blinds, and where you can gradually loosen up quite a bit as you reach the cutoff. And actually, we have a really nice hand, beautiful hand at the cutoff. And as you reach the button, that's where you want to start opening up your range really wide. And you know what? I can't fold this one. I know he has aces, but my hand is going to hit his hand so often. However, if that guy who's deep, any of these guys go all in, okay, and I can't fold. And I am going to re-raise and get it all in. And never underestimate the gut shot. Oh shoot. And there you go. You know what? I'm gonna pause it and let's kind of go over that hand after I play this. We're out of position. I really don't like kings out of position, and he's slightly deep. Let's fold. So let's go over that hand and just determine whether I made a mistake or whether I played it right. So let's open that hand, and what we're going to do is okay, so we open, what is it, 3x from the cutoff. We had a decent hand, and the button calls, and what's going on here? We're seeing everyone's hand again. So when you look at these hand, this guy, the guy who's deep, he kind of had junky kings. It's kind of suited, but his side cards are not very well connected. The only chance he had was to set mine, and I guess all the right to set mine. And this guy, the short stack, had a decent, it had an awesome hand. He had a solid rundown, which which is actually a lot stronger than what I had in my hand. Although I do have a double suited, but it's not to the nuts. And so let's see what happened. So I raised 3x and everyone the button and the small blind called, and he, rightfully so, he's willing to put his stack in right there, and I knew he was because he was short stack, and I was willing to just get my stack in with my queen queen 9 10. Although I do have a gap of jack, it just hits the board usually so well, so I was willing to put everything in there. And everyone calls, and we have a massive pot, and we're very deep with the guy from the small blind and also from the button. And the thing here was, I do have the second set, and I really thought this short stack had aces, and I thought he had more of a rundown. And when the king queen came up, I thought he had more maybe like what the short stacker had, like a jack queen 9 10, and I thought he was on the draw. So I was more than happy to get it in, but when I saw that he had a set, that kind of made me want to throw up because I lost close to 200 BB stack. So it was like, that's the only tricky thing when you don't have real clear reads. But based on it, I kind of had the reads, but it's just based on the wrong person. Like I thought the short stack had aces, aces XX, and that's why I thought he was kind of getting all in. And whereas the small button, I think, had more of a rundown, like more of a card hand that the short stacker had. So I had this range in wrong. If it was reverse, I think I would have had better chance. And as the car ran out, we get our stacks in, and I was more than happy to get it in. And when I saw his kings out, my heart just totally sunk. And with the 9, yeah. So that was one of those hands where it's a matter of just making a read, but I just had the wrong read on the wrong players, and it's definitely a mistake. But you know what? It happens sometimes. So let's move on. So that was a huge one, eh? We lost 200 BBs, and I don't think I've ever had that on video where I lost close to 200 BBs, which I do not like to do, because I usually like to hold on to the stack, and I usually do, but it does happen. And this one we're not going to call. If that was suited aces, I would always over limp, especially when we're close to where we're at the cutoff or the button. And yeah. So this one, it may look good, but it's just junky cards. There's too much gaps there, and we got a dangler of 2. When you're in position, you want to open up your hand, but not hands like this. This is another trash hand. 2, 3, that's not connected. You're never going to win a straight with those hands. And 8s, middle pairs, never set mine. The only time I would set mine is if I have, any aces, I would set mine. And decent kings with sidecards, as you kind of saw on a couple of previous hands where I folded a couple of kings. That's the only time I would set my kings. It would have some. I would have to set mine with kings. I would have to have some, really nice like king 9 10, king jack 10, king like 9 10 double suited, for me to raise. This one I don't like the gap of 8 9. That's 7 dangler, and we're in no position, so I'm gonna fold. So just as you kind of practice, playing out these micro stakes, make sure get comfortable with your hands. To try to learn to know which hands are good to open pre-flop and which one would be good to set mine. And in pot limit, set mining is okay, but it's better to go for rundown so that you can get a wrap, like a combo draw with nut flush draw, or even like a backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw. You wanna have every possible outside you can have, so that when you do get your stacks in, um, and this one I'm not gonna fold. And when you do get your stacks in, okay, let's see what he's got. And I'm not gonna let up here. I know he's short stack. I mean, if he has it, he's gonna re-raise me. Yeah, I'm gonna call it if he bets. I won't re-raise him, but I'm okay. I'm gonna close the book. See what he does. Yeah, I just don't think he had anything there. Let's see what he had. Yeah, I just had a better kicker. Well, geez, I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, like try to avoid set mining pot limit on Y. It doesn't really pay off as much as it would in no limit, because when you do hit either top set or second set, someone's gonna outdraw you with. Okay, I'm not gonna play this one slow. Yeah, someone's always gonna outdraw you with like a flush draw or some combo draw. So set mining, I don't think it's as powerful move as, you know what, I'm gonna keep betting. If he has the nut flush draw, he's gonna let me know it right here on the turn. And if he just calls, I'm gonna just keep betting, yeah. And let's see what he does. And he let me know, and that is something people are not gonna bluff that often, and I'm gonna fold that. Like on the river, I mean, when someone re-raises me, unless I have clear read, I'm folding to any re-raise. And that's the thing that sucks about playing Zoom. I mean, you don't have any of those reads where, you haven't seen those hands at showdown. And sometimes you never see the person again. And it sucks getting re-raised on the river. It's a spot where no one ever bluffs. Oh geez, what did I do? That was a misclick. This is pure junk. And we're gonna fold this. That was a misclick for sure. And we're gonna fold this. And let's see what they had though. Like, we always assume that they have ace ace XX. Let's see what this character has. If he doesn't bet, he bet really weak. And if he's... I can't believe he called out or re-raised. Maybe pot. I really think he has ace ace XX. And I don't know what he's trying to draw out on. Maybe he's got queens or jacks. Not sure. Maybe... Yeah, that's kind of weird. So pretty interesting spots. First spot was where I lost. And you know what? This may look pretty, but at middle position is not a great hand. You're gonna draw to a sucker straight. So you want to fold those hands. Yeah. So interesting hands so far, where you saw me win close to 100 BB and then lose 200 BB, and where I got re-raised on the river. What I was looking at there. Yeah, so poker-wise for 2014, I did get a chance to play quite a bit. Unfortunately, it was in my stakes, and poker has been very good for me ever since I switched to Pot Limit Omaha. I mean, it's such a fun game, and it's never boring. Even right now, as I'm playing this, 5 PLO Zoom, I'm I'm having a blast actually. So if you raise me, I'm gonna just get it all in. It's a decent hand, yeah. Sure, let's get it all in. Am I lucky? Yes, I get the full house. And yeah, it's always fun, you know. Even if I play 2 PLO, I have just as much fun as playing 200 PLO or 50 PLO. It's a game that is, the more I play it, um, the more complex it becomes. It's not, in the beginning when I first thought I had the game, I realized now I am not even close to fully, mastering anything at my stakes. But I am able to beat the other players at my stakes. I think it's not because of math or knowing all the theory, but being able to, okay, on this one, remember it's going to be a multi-way. I'm out of position. I have Queen, Jack, 10. I have a dangler. I'm going to fold this one. I lose 6 outs when I don't have the dangler. And it's multi-way and I'm out of position. I'll fold that. Yeah, it's been an interesting, I mean, very fun, interesting journey so far. This is my lower end of my open raise at early position. I would prefer to have like 7, 8, 9, 10. 6 is really the bottom end of my range at early position, and because of this. But you know what? It's kind of a dry board, and it could hit him or not, and I'm going to bet pretty close to half. And that's the power position. He checked back, and whatever we have based on the board, I don't think it really hit his range, so we make a bet. In this one, we're on the button, but we got junky aces. There's no connection, and we don't even have suited aces. We the only thing we can do is we can just call. I mean, it's okay to fold that too. And the only thing that we can hope for is an ace. And it's still a dry board, and I think we do have the best hand. Because we do have a jack here too. I really doubt anyone else has jack, jack, ace, jack, jack, XX, so no one has top set. But there's a possibility of having like a middle set, which really crushes our aces. But I'm going to bet rather strong, maybe 50 cents, and see if these guys are ready to dance. And we take it down, and another power up position, and knowing your board. And that's what I'm trying to concentrate on. Remember, it's not necessarily the card that you have. It's, what kind of sign does your opponent give you? Do they check back on the flop? Do they bet always, or are they going to re-raise? I mean, there's so many different signs that you need to look for. And also bet sizing too. If they bet less than half pot and you think the board doesn't hit the range, I mean, that's a good time to check raise or re-raise their bets. There's so many tells that you can pick up on, especially when you play pot limit or Omaha, more than I think no limit. And another important thing for you, for those of you who are kind of new to pot limit Omaha is, remember in no limit, you always want, especially when you know that you're ahead of your opponent's range, you just want them in the pot. But in pot limit Omaha, since the equity changes so much street to street, you want to bet to take the pot down and be happy with it, be satisfied with it. I mean, sometimes when you do have the ultimate mega nuts, that's the only time that you're going to actually try to kind of bait your opponent so that they don't fold, so they stay in the pot. And sometimes you might even check back. But in pot limit Omaha, the best thing to do is you want to bet when you do have a hand, and even if they fold, be happy with it. Don't worry about trying to get more value out of your hand unless you have the ultimate nuts, and that's the only time you're going to prevent your opponents from folding. It's like when you have, like, say, top set and nut flush draw or something like that, or a mate straight. And your opponent has maybe a sucker straight and you want to keep them in the hand. short stack, I'm going to fold that. If that was suited ace to the hearts, yeah, I would definitely call that against a short stacker. Because the flush, one thing you should never underestimate is the power of your nut flush draw. Um, if you do have just a regular flush draw, I don't think it's as powerful. It's good as a backup, but if you're trying to play your hand based on your flush draw and it's not a nut flush draw, a hand like this is interesting. I'm gonna play this one. We have double suited kings. That's kind of nice having double suited kings, and having the fact that we have kings is nice. But this seven is useless. I mean, like, so say, and we're not gonna re-raise anyone. Say when the king set of sevens, it's rare that we're gonna have top set, and a hand like this, we do have relative position against most of them, and we're gonna make bet out on this one. We don't have to make a big bet, but maybe close half. And we do have top set, but we have to be aware of someone having a mate flush, and if someone re-raises, we're gonna fold, and that's what we do. So when we have a monochrome board and we have top set, and we do have relative position, and that's the key thing. If I was the first to act, I don't think I would have bet out on that board like that against three other opponents. Whereas since I had relative position at the cutoff, that was a good opportune time for me to bet up because I knew that two of my opponents didn't have it, and it was just the opponent who had position with me that I didn't know what kind of hand that he had. So this is definitely a roller coaster game, and being that it's 5 PLO, and yeah, it's kind of interesting today. I like it. It's definitely not boring, and it's rare it's going to be boring. What I like to do, like say I'm at the mall with my wife, I'll just while my wife is at the store, I'll just get my phone out and play some Zoom PLO. But the thing is, when I do play mobile Zoom PLO, I'm not playing my regular stakes. I play micro stakes, usually like, I don't know, sometimes 5, 10, or 25 PLO. This is a hand that I'm going to fold. I don't like that. The pair of nines doesn't do me any good. And we do have a little bit, I mean, the gap at the bottom is not too bad, but I just don't like the nines there. I'd rather have, instead of nines, I'd rather have 8 or a jack. Yeah, so anytime when I'm waiting for my wife, or I guess maybe spare 15-20 minutes on the train, I'll just open up my phone and play some microstakes Zoom PLO, and it's good for me because I get to practice something. Sometimes what I'll do is, like, if I'm at the button out the cutoff, and I'll never fold at those positions, see what happens, or just have fun, just trying to play these players based on their bet sizing and any kind of tells that I can get. And this one, I'm definitely not folding that. I do have I'll show you the one disadvantage of the hand that I have right now is this king. I'd rather have that king as queen. And bet full pot, and we only have top pair and a possible straight draw. You know what? We're going to call this one street, and I'm going to give up on the. And if he checks back, I'm going to bet though. And I'm folding. More likely he was on a draw. I'm not really sure, but when he's betting full pot, and I got nothing here now, I'm going to fold that. Interesting spot. Those are the spots that I'm sure a lot of players kind of get confused. Whoops. You know what? Let's look at that hand. I'm gonna fold this. You see, this is why I love Zoom PLO. We can kind of fold our hand instantly and just open up our previous hand. When you look back at this hand, let's go back. So he raises 10x. I mean, he min raises pre-flop. I mean, that doesn't really matter. There's no mistake. There's nothing wrong with min raising pre-flop in pot limit Omaha, and especially at the cutoff. And at the cutoff, it's hard to know what kind of hand they have. I mean, they can have any hand, and this can definitely hit his range. I mean, he could have ace, queen, jack, 10. I don't know, probably less likely. Or maybe he can have a rundown, maybe jack 10, 9, 8. Probably not, because I do have jack and 10. But you never know. Or he could have ace, ace, XX. And the thing is, he bets pot. Every time when anyone bets pot, and when they're out of position, I'm always thinking that they maybe hit this board. Either they have ace XX or maybe king XXX or maybe king queen XX, and they know there's a flush draw, and they're trying to make me pay to draw. And that's what I was thinking, and I thought maybe he didn't have a flush. So I was willing to float, and I was willing to bluff on the turn if he checked back. So I called this pot size bet, which is still pretty small, but now it's starting to get a little bit big. So what my plan was on the turn, if we hit the five of hearts. So my plan was if you check back, I was going to just bet close to pot, maybe like 65 to 75 cents to take the pot down. But when he bet close to pot, and I mean, it's a tricky bet. He could still have king queen XX. It's a tough spot to call, even if you're in position. And he played it well. He double barreled. I don't know if he bluffed or if he really had a made flush. I think that was a very well played hand on his part. So good job, NTT.
Okay, that wraps this video up. And this is Uboat for Grand School, and I'll see you in part 2.